We'll start with the object. The object of our love is new. And the reason I say that is because in the Old Testament, the command was to love your what? Love your neighbor, right? And in that culture, the Jews had narrowly defined what it meant to be a neighbor. A neighbor was a fellow Jew. You remember in the Gospels when Jesus gives the parable of the Good Samaritan? You remember what prompted that parable? The Pharisees asked the question, Lord, who's my neighbor? And Jesus says, it's not who you may think it is. It's actually the people you don't like. And so when Jesus says you need to love one another, he's getting at that kind of prejudicial, racial kind of angst that the Jews had towards anyone who wasn't inside the circle. Now, some people would say Jesus is talking about love for everyone equally. It's, love for believers, love for non-believers, and that's true. That's a biblical truth, but that's not what Jesus is talking about right here. Jesus is speaking to his disciples. He's defining discipleship according to his viewpoint, and he's talking about a very unique and a very particular kind of love between Christians. So Christians do have love for non-Christians, and it is just as meaningful and just as real as their love for Christians, but there is a unique kind of love that is inside the household, the family of God, and that's the kind of love that Jesus is talking about here. But the reason that it's not narrowly defined according to our neighbor is because when Jesus died on the cross and rose from the grave and he institutionalized this new community, what he did is he broke down the geographical and the social and the racial barriers that had existed prior to his death and resurrection. So in Judaism, you were part of God's people by your birth, almost by your nationality. The Jews were God's chosen people, and the Jews became a loveless people because anyone who wasn't Jewish was kind of outcast. They weren't special. They weren't, God's chosen. But what Jesus did is he opened up the floodgates so that whether you're Jew or Greek, whether you're a slave or whether you're a free person, whether you're a male or a female, everyone is equal in Christ Jesus. We're all inherit the salvation that is ours in Christ. There is no Jew or Greek or slave or free or male or female. All are one in Christ Jesus. And so one of the ways that we know that the object of our love is new is because we love people who aren't like us in the household of faith. If you look around this